and welcome to another episode of 50 Shades in Grey, where our friend of the show, that's what I'm going to call you now, T, friend of the show, Tia Zanetti joins us. T, how are you, darling? Are you okay?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, God, you are today our most popular guest. That's the most views that we get when we have you on. So
Oh,
what,
sure.
what what we're going to do today is we're going to follow up because the one that we did before, I think, really resonated with a lot of people your age, and I think also a lot of people my age that are going through that. Children are moving out and starting again.
Yeah.
So obviously in the first episode, we spoke about you getting your place and you've moved in and the emotions with that and sort of spending more time on your own, because I know you've lived on your own before, but that was with a housemate and you said it was very different. So what's gone on since that stage? I think it was before Christmas. What's
Yeah.
been happening with you since then?
So, if you watched the episode before, I hated it. I hated every single second of living alone. It was really stressful, and I feel like I just wasn't. I hadn't settled in at all. I feel like if you'd have asked me if we'd have done this like a month ago, I would have probably been in the same place. But I feel like honestly, like in the last month, I've came on leaps and bounds. I feel like I'm finally starting to feel a little bit more at home. I'm starting to get used to my own company. Um, and obviously, I think as time goes on, you figure out different things that work for you and that make things easier and nicer living on your own. So I feel like I'm not hating it, which is a good. Actually, I would obviously still prefer to live with someone, but I think it's a good learning opportunity for me living on my own, and I think I'm getting a lot better at it.
You hit that really well then, because I think in the first one you said it was hard, but I didn't know you. And now I feel really bad as well because you're close to us anyway. So I didn't know you were finding it that difficult and you were that unhappy with it.
Yeah, the first couple months were really hard. I think, yeah, I was really struggling, but I think it wasn't. It didn't get to the point though that I wanted to leave. Do you know what I mean? So therefore,
Yeah,
in my eyes, I still felt like it was the right thing to do. So it wasn't a case of, oh my God, I want to go home. It was just a case of, I don't really enjoy this. But I knew that I had to get used to it and I had to get better at it. So it wasn't like oh, I just want to leave and I just don't want to do this anymore. It was like, no, I just need to learn how to make this for me. Because it's also just like growing up, I guess. Um, and as much as I didn't enjoy it, there's always still pluses for it. And I had like good support around me and everything. Obviously, like lucky to have you and Zach so close, which made it a lot easier. Um, and I don't think in the time I really hated it, but I think I didn't realize how much I hated it until now. I'm a lot happier. I'm like, oh God, like it was quite rough at the time, but I don't think I realized like the severity of how much I wasn't like fully enjoying it.
what 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 would you say that you was finding particularly difficult in the experience then?
I think it's just I honestly believe that if I'd have lived around the corner from like I guess my family or from my friends or whatever, and I was on my own, I wouldn't be bothered because I'd know that people around the corner. But it was a case of moving to a complete new city. I didn't really have any friends. The friends that I did have, I thought I'd be seeing a lot more, and I just didn't see any of them. And I felt very, to be honest, I felt very dependent on like on you and Zach, and it was more the stress of, oh my God, like if I didn't have used to, like what would I be doing down here like other than work? And it just wasn't very I just felt very overwhelmed as well, like doing everything on my own. It was a bit when things so if you remember, like when I first moved, everything was going wrong. Like I had no bed for 8 weeks. I got like scammed. I got like fleas, like all this stuff was happening and I had to deal with everything like pretty much on my own. And I think it was that made it worse because I was like, I just want someone to like take the load off a little bit. But then it was
Yeah.
having to like grow up quite fast and be like, well, no, I can't, so I need to just do it on myself. But then it got to a point where I was kind of like, oh God, I'm actually just, I'm a bit exhausted doing this on my own. And then you just like daft stuff, like then going for a food shop at the end of the week. I'm like, oh God, I just wish someone would do this for us.
Because there, do you think that one of the reasons was and I find this sometimes is that there becomes like a monotony of like the same thing every day. You think like I always find with me, it's brushing my teeth. I think I'm brushing my teeth again. And
Yeah,
there was no break from it. And especially for you, because the job that you're doing a lot of weekend hours as well, aren't you? So
yeah,
it's not like you get to Friday and go, right, this time is my own. So do you think
yeah.
that has a lot to do with it as well when you're on your own?
Oh, 100%. I think, for me, I totally understand about the like the toothbrush thing. For me, it's washing the dishes like every single day. Like they just don't seem to go down. And I'm like, I don't feel like I eat enough food to have this much stuff to wash up. I'm like, why does it keep on building up all the time? And I'm like, every single day, I'm like, oh my god, do I have to do this every day for the rest of my life? Like this actually sucks. And I think what to go back to your other point about obviously weekend hours, when I first moved, I was working 5 days in London, like traveling in. I was doing a lot of evenings. I think not only did I move obviously on my own, which was brand new, I was also working in like a complete strange place on my own, kind of like being in charge of like these buildings and having all these strangers in and then like walking home really late, getting home at like 10:30, just having a complete different schedule. And then like you're saying, then not even having a weekend because I was also working on a Sunday at one point. I was working all day Saturday, 8 till 5, and then also working on a Sunday and then not really having any like relaxing time, I guess. So yeah, it was quite a lot. Whereas now, as time's gone on, I've kind of fixed my. So I still work on a Saturday, but I don't work on a Sunday, and I don't do as many late nights. So I feel like I'm finally starting to get in a bit more of a routine, which I think really helps. 'Cause I think with my job, it's just all over the place, which then makes it quite hard to feel settled because every week's just it's just all over the place. If that makes sense.
So do you think that, I mean, what advice would you give to someone? Do you think this is something that everyone moving to a new city would go through?
I've heard people who've moved to a new city and they just absolutely love it. Like they've had such a good time. They love being on their own, and they've kind of thrived. But I do know a lot of people like me who've kind of moved to a new city. I think it's very different as well moving to a new city where you don't know anyone, and also like a brand new job. I think people you do struggle. But of course you're gonna, but you struggle with like every new thing in life. Like when you get a new job, it's hard. When you if you move house with your family, that's like a bit of a ball ache. Like everything in life is like difficult. But also I feel like sometimes the difficult things are the things that are worth it. So for me, I didn't have a great few months, but I knew that it was going to benefit my future. So therefore I was like, I'm gonna have to just get past it. And I'm like proud of myself for doing that. And I'm glad I didn't just go home. I think a lot of people probably could have gone home after like my first 2 months of like hell, but I didn't, and now I feel so much better for it. And I just think, yeah, like a lot of people probably do go through the same feelings when they first move, but then most people who I do speak to who've gone through the same thing, if after probably about, I would say 4 to 6 months, it's just like kind of clicked. And when I was having a bad time, I was thinking, oh god, like that's not going to happen. I'm going to feel like this forever. But then literally after the 4 to 6 month mark, it has literally clicked. And I'm like, oh, actually, this actually isn't too bad.
Do you find that you've learnt a lot about yourself maybe as well in that time?
Yeah, loads actually, which is crazy because obviously I literally have lived away from home before, and to be honest, like my housemate wasn't really in a lot for the first year. She was like in a lot, but like after this first year, she wasn't home really much. So I do feel like I've already lived kind of on my own, but it just felt so different because there was another bedroom that someone was always coming back to. I think that's the thing that I struggled with when I first moved. It was like I don't know the next time I'm going to see someone is. Whereas when you've got your family and stuff, it's kind of like, well, you know that you're going to see them after work or whatever. I don't know, even if your family's around the corner, it's like, oh, every Sunday I go to my nana's house and have a Sunday dinner. Like, I don't have that. So it's kind of like, when am I actually next going to see someone? Obviously, when I had no friends, I was like, I could just not speak to another person for like 3 weeks and no one would like even know. Like, it would be horrible. But I feel like as time's gone on, I've I've realised I thought I wasn't very social actually. Like I moved here thinking, oh, I'm actually not very sociable at all. Like I love my own time and space. And I do like my own time and space, but I do think I've realised that I do like people there as well. And I do, but I've also now realised things that I need to do to fill time. So for instance, I've took up colouring, as you know.
No, no, right. We've had this conversation. You can't take up colouring.
I have,
Colouring,
I have.
colouring is not a thing. But let me explain. So Tia was round. Tia comes round. Maybe you're here like once a week, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe yeah, and we'll have dinner. And she said, I've taken up colouring. And I was like, what are you talking about? She says, basically colouring in. So, and I was like, it's not a thing. It can't be a thing.
I've literally got a pack of like 100 I take it very seriously, 100 pens, I've got 4 colouring books. So like, because for me, right, I feel like I
Hold
realise
on. Right, hold on. Colour, colouring books or books. You've got,
colouring books.
what, are they, are they adult ones?
You know,
No, they're not.
they're all they're all like bears and flowers and stuff. So no. I'm not one of those cool girls who colour in like swear words. It's literally bears holding hands in a park.
If we'd have planned this, I would have had one that you could have got and shown me.
To be fair, they are only there.
Right, please get one. It's
I
worth the
think you'll
wait.
be really impressed, Elliot.
Okay, okay. So,
Right.
so Tia's gone off to get some of her colouring, as as she calls it. Now, this might be a thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just out of date, but I stopped colouring in years ago. Right, I'm going to need my glass. Oh, they're like 5-year-old tea. Like,
No, but I'm really good. Look, isn't that good? And you know who else loves it? Zach. Do you want to see one we did together?
oh dear me! I'm glad to see the private education wasn't wasted on him. He became his mum would be so proud. He became really he became really. Right, stop now! Please stop! Please stop! So you've got this pastime of colouring in.
Just that,
You
like, there's other things. There's just, I think it's more. I was coming in from work and I was sitting on my own, and it was in complete silence. And I was just ended up just sitting on my phone. And then, of course, you're gonna feel miserable because you're just sitting watching
yeah.
everyone else having fun with their friends or like with their family, and I'm just sat here on my own in silence. My neighbour next door is like screaming at their whoever, and I'm just like sat here like, oh my god, like this really sucks. So now it's like when I come home, I'll put the Alexa on straight away, which you got me, which has been like literally the savior of my life.
There
Literally
you go, sis.
as soon as as soon as I come in, I put her on like without fail. And then I'll put something on the TV. I make myself sit in here, not my bedroom, so I got into the habit of sitting in my bedroom as well. Because there's no one, I guess, to socialise with in the living room, so I just didn't really sit here. But now I'll make myself sit here, and then yeah, I'll colour in, I'll bake. I've got a clay kit.
Well, that's more grown up. I'll give you the
Yeah,
clay kit.
yeah,
It,
yeah.
it's really interesting actually what you just said just now, because when you said looking at your phone, looking at other people, we
Mm.
obviously follow each other on our socials. Um, but every time I look, it's like she's out again. She's doing this. She's at this and that. So that's really interesting, because from
Mm.
another person's perspective, so mine of yours, you're always out and about. So it can be quite deceiving, can't it? You can think that people are doing all these things, and then actually that may not be the case at all. It's just what is shown on social media.
Oh, 100%. And I think well, to be fair, I feel like what's helped me in the last couple of months is that I have been making myself a bit more busy. Whereas when I first moved, like I wasn't really doing anything. But also what I guess people wouldn't see on social media. People probably think like, oh God, she's got so many friends and she's doing all this. The people I'm going out with, the people who've like visited, have came to visit me, like they're not here. So everyone who I'm seeing are my friends from Manchester or my friends from home, and there's not really, I'm never like going out with people around here. It's just always people coming and visiting. So yeah, I might have like a really good weekend and I have like the best time ever. But then as soon as they leave, I'm then like, oh, like I wish that was a constant. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which you don't see on social media. Obviously, you see on my YouTube. I'm very open with like how I feel on my YouTube. Obviously, on Instagram, it's just you just post your highlights, don't you? So you just see
yeah.
me like out, and it's like, oh, she was having a great time. But you don't see me on
She's
a
here,
Monday
and
scrolling
yeah.
like, yeah,
Because one of the other things I wanted to talk about with you is you had quite a scary experience as well when you first moved down, didn't you? Early in the
yeah.
morning.
Mm.
And I think that's one thing, probably as a young female, would be a father's like biggest nightmare that
Yeah.
you worry about. Do you want to talk about that just quickly? What happened?
Yeah, yeah. So this is actually what made me swap all of my shifts in the end. I basically worked in a studio that was in like not really a very actually, it was in a lovely place. You had to just walk through somewhere that was a little bit scary. And I used to work at like 7 in the morning, so I'd have to leave man like the crack of dawn. I was getting there at like 6:30 to open up, and it was really, really dark, obviously at the time. And I was basically just walking to work on my own, and I started getting followed by this like van. And then I was panicking. I always write. So lots of girls have their own little method. Like my friend Faye carries her keys in between her fingers, so that if I don't really know what key's gonna do, but I think it's just to make yourself
Well,
feel
they,
a bit safer.
yeah,
Whereas for me, I write 999 on my phone just so that if worst case scenario, I can just quickly click it before like they do anything, and then even if I end up something ends up happening, at least like there's uh
a
proof of
trail.
don't.
Yeah,
So I did that straight away because I was like, "Oh god, like, this is really scary." But I thought I'm just overthinking, and then they like pulled in front of me where you cross the road, and then they like told me to get in the car, and then I obviously pooed myself, and then they all just started laughing and then drove off, and it was. It, look at like now that I say it like out loud, it doesn't sound that bad, but at the time obviously it was so dark and it was like a bunch of men in a van, and I was the only one in the road. Like if anything had, if they hadn't have been joking and they were being serious, and it was like no one would have known, I would have just disappeared.
yeah. I don't. Well, you say it doesn't sound that bad. I think it sounds bloody terrifying. I think even as a guy, you'd be a little bit affected by that. But
Yeah,
that is, I guess, something all females, sort of young females especially, that in those situations they're vulnerable. But it's got a
yeah,
lot to do with the time of year as well, wasn't it? Because if that was broad daylight, it's like now that it's still like light outside, so that makes a big. Has it, you found that made a big difference to sort of you coming in now as well?
yeah. So I think it was. Yeah, that massively. Because then I started also getting in my head, I guess, about if something had happened, and because none of my family and everything or friends are down here, um, like how if something had happened, like how long would it have took for people to notice? Like that was going through my head. So then I was panicking about that, and then I was thinking like, oh, what if something does happen in the future or whatever, blah blah. Um, and I just started getting really stressed about going to work at that time. So obviously I was scared in case it happened again and blah blah. So I changed a lot of my shifts because I was actually doing a lot of evenings. I was getting home at like 10:30. It was pitch black. Now I do finish a little bit earlier, but even on like on a Saturday I start early, and normally it's quite dark when I leave. But then by the time I get on in London, it's quite bright, so it's only a little bit of scariness. It's not like fully scary. It's only scary for like maybe half an hour. Whereas
Yeah,
now I wake up and it's so bright, everyone's around, like it's so busy, and I feel like it just makes you feel so much better. So that's definitely helped, and even just obviously finishing work a little bit earlier. But even if I wasn't finishing work earlier and I was still doing those hours, obviously now that it's brighter, I think you do feel a lot safer, which is silly, really. But the dark, just I'm scared of the dark, anyways.
yeah.
Being out like on your own, and
So
I'm
if someone was
let's be real, I'm not really the most strong, so I'd be a goner. So that's the thing.
So if someone was considering sort of moving and doing what you've done, which a lot of people do you think sort of thinking about the time of year would make a difference, or do you think you're going to go through that adjustment anyway?
So I, when I first wanted to move, I remember having this conversation with Zach, and I said to him, I don't want to move in winter. And he used to take the absolute mick, and he was like, "Oh God, the big bad winter! Like you can't move then." And I was like, "No," I was like, I just don't want to move in the winter." I was like, "It's cold, it's dark." I
Yeah,
was like, "It's hard enough moving and living on your own." And obviously, I knew I had a lot to adjust to. I was like, "But also, the time of year sucks anyway." I was like, "I don't want to give any like make it any worse than it has to be kind of thing."
yeah,
But then obviously because of circumstance and obviously I didn't have enough money to do it in summer, I ended up moving in the winter time. And it could be naive for me to think it, but I do think it would have been a little not a lot easier, but I do think it would have been a little bit easier if I had moved when it was lighter, warmer. People are out doing
yeah.
things a lot more. Like a lot of my friends over winter, like they don't want to do anything. So I wasn't
No,
seeing anyone. It was freezing in here. I was scared to put the heating on. Whereas if it was summertime, I just think it would have made it a little bit easier. I think obviously everyone's still going to have an adjustment period, and like I say, some people probably would have got over it a lot faster. And I actually do believe that I would have got over it a lot faster if I'd have used my initiative and let myself get over it faster. But I think I sat in it for a while. Like I wasn't going
yeah.
out, I wasn't meeting friends. try and sort out my shifts. Like I just sat with things that I wasn't happy with for a long time, and it's only been like the last month that I've actually made a real big effort to change it, and I feel so much better. I'm like, it's almost annoying because I'm like, I could have done this months ago. So I think as long as people know it's going to take a little bit of adjusting, but try and get like past it fast and just put yourself out there. I think no matter what time of year is going to make it a lot easier. But I do think moving in the lighter months it would be a bit better.
Yeah, I think it's an easier transition. And on that, there was something else that you said to me the other day, actually, that I giggled at when you came round, was that you had what you called a friend date.
I did.
So, so explain what, because this was basically you when you went out with someone for the first time. But I've never looked at it that way before. But I guess that's what it is, kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's I guess when you meet someone to date them, it's like you just meet them for the first time. So you're kind of doing the same with thing with a friend, like seeing whether you're compatible, whether you've got enough crack to like you want to see each other again. So it is basically like a date, but just for friends. But the way it happened was really weird because it wasn't weird, but she'd messaged me on Instagram. I'd never met her before. Um, and she's from my area, and basically she used to live in this flat. So not my flat, but in this block. So
Okay.
she noticed the flat and she messaged me on Instagram and she was like, if you ever need like any help or advice, like just let me know. And to be honest, this is what I mean by me being the worst and like not helping myself. I kind of was like, oh, thanks, great. And I just didn't really pursue anything. So I was like, oh, I just no, like I just don't really want to like do that kind of thing. Um, and then she saw me on the train and she said like, if you want to go for like coffee, by the way, like just let me know. And I was like, yeah. And again, me being annoying, I was just because I've not really done that before, and I was a bit like, oh god, it feels a bit weird meeting a friend for the first time and going on a friend date. Like, it feels a little bit weird. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then, anyways, it was obviously when I said that, I decided like really try and put myself out there. I just messaged her. I was like, do you want to actually do that friend date? And she's like, yeah. And then we went, and I had such a nice time. We went to B&M. We went for a coffee. And then it was really lovely. And then the next week, she messaged me and she was like, I'm going to go to Lidl if you want any food. She's like, do you want to do a food shop together? And I was like, yeah. Felt a little bit like an old married couple, to be honest. But now I see her like once a week, which is lovely. But like, I would never have. What's annoying is that I could have done that months and months ago. But I know people who had first friend dates who like obviously you don't click with them and you don't like want to see them. But I think it's good just to put yourself out there anyways, because now if anyone wants to message me again, ask to see me, I wouldn't be scared to do it because I know that this one's gone well.
Oh, that's a really nice story, though, isn't it? Especially,
Yeah.
I think if it was someone you met through work, it's probably different. But through Instagram as well, you get a lot of messages, don't you? Sometimes, and it
Yeah.
can be a little bit like, oh, I'm not sure how this is going to go. If it's going to be a genuine person, or again, someone who wants to throw me in a truck and then drive
Yeah,
off with
yeah.
me.
And I've never, ever, ever made a friend who's been a complete stranger before. Like, it's always been, we've went to college together, we've went to school together, I know you, or we've danced together. Like, it's so weird meeting someone for the first time and being like, there's almost too much to talk about. Like, so what's your last name? You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
where did you go? It's like, there's just so much to talk about. And I was really stressing thinking that that was going to be too much to make a new friend. But I think just being a girl young as well, and she'd also moved out on her own when she first moved here, so she basically went through my whole life just the year before. So it was just nice to speak to someone about it and then kind of hear how well she's doing now a year on, and we kind of bonded on that, which was lovely.
So as well as making friends and colouring in, which
I literally sound about 14.
you actually started a bit of a new business venture as well, haven't you?
Yes, I did. I started a Pilates brand. Yeah.
More, but we need some more information.
So I started a online brand called TLZ Pilates, and it was just kind of I wanted to be like an umbrella. I want to do a lot of things with it, but my first thing was I brought out my own Pilates socks. So I did that literally a couple of weeks ago and sold out in
Wow.
an hour and 10 minutes, which I didn't think was ever going to happen. I literally my aim. I was like, if I sell 30, I'll like be absolutely buzzing. And then obviously the fact that I sold out was amazing. But I think having that as well has been really good to focus on. But
So did you have to go through all the like sort of samples and sourcing them and the design of them and a logo?
yeah, luckily, I'd already designed my logo, so I knew what it was like. I knew I had that, and I'm quite good that I've got an eye. So like, I already knew what I wanted them to look like. Like, I didn't have to be like, "Oh, you tell me what you think's gonna look good." I knew exactly what I wanted, so I just had to find someone who would be able to bring that to life. But it was a nightmare. It was so bad for so long, like going back and forth for ages, and then I got samples and they weren't great, and then I got things through and they were faulty, and it was just like it did take a while, but I finally got out the other end, which was great. But yeah, it was a lot harder than I thought. I do think I thought the designing would be the hard part, but that was like the nicest, more straightforward bit. It was all the other stuff that was the worst. And then, obviously, again, like doing it all on my own, I had to figure out how I was going to actually send them, which I didn't ever think about before I decided to make a sock company. I just thought like, oh, like it'll be easy. Didn't even Google it. Like so stupid. And then I obviously figured out how you do it, and I realized obviously I don't have a car. So like how am I gonna take all of these socks like on foot to where I need to go? Like that's gonna be I'm not really the strongest. And I was like, what am I actually gonna do?
You could have worn them all.
So on my hands, on my
Just
feet.
to your feet, yeah.
Well,
50
yeah,
pairs of
true.
socks.
I'll just shove them in my top and just walk like that. Um but I organised for Every to come and pick them up twice and they cancelled on me both times, which
Every are rubbish, absolute
I
garbage.
hate them.
Every,
If you're watching, you actually suck.
yeah, don't use every. Every is the worst. Is the
Yeah,
worst one.
I won't use them again. But it got obviously they cancelled on me twice, and I'd stayed in all day to wait for these socks to get like picked up, and then I ended up having to go on foot the next day with all my socks, and I looked like I was homeless because I had these huge bags. I'd had a really bad night's sleep, so my hair was like everywhere. I had on like a stained hoodie and joggers, and I thought, oh god, I actually look so bad. But they got delivered. I had a, like marks on my shoulders of how bloody heavy it was, but they're gone. And I know now that next time I need to figure that out before I sell socks. Like I need to think about the hard stuff before just thinking about the cute, pretty pink love hearts I'm gonna put on them. Like that's not really the important bit.
So
Yeah.
are you ordered? Got more coming? Going to sell more?
So I had 2 samples get delivered last week, and I'm waiting for one more sample this week that should be coming. And then yeah, I'm gonna order more. Different colours.
Oh well, we'll put the link on there, and people can have a look at your Pilates socks because they're an important part of Pilates, aren't they? Socks, apparently.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to do the class without them. Like people always get fuming as well actually, but you're not allowed to do a reformer class without them because of like the insurance.
Okay.
So it's like it's yeah, otherwise if someone does a class and they haven't got the Pilates socks on and then they get injured, the teacher's not covered because we didn't make sure they were properly equipped with the socks, do you know what I mean? So, but often like you go to a class and because you need them, these studios charge like 20 quid for socks. I remember my first ever class and I went to go buy socks and she told me they were £22 and I was on the bones of my arse and I nearly had a heart attack and I thought, oh my God, like £22 for a pair of socks. Mine are £9.50. So I've tried to make them like a lot more affordable. Yeah, because not everyone can afford £22 for a pair of socks.
It sounds a lot for a pair of socks. Sounds a lot. But
Yeah.
T, that's brilliant that you've done that and you've managed to sell all those out as well. Otherwise, you could have had socks everywhere that you were colouring in, and that would have been
Would have been cute. Yeah, I could draw the
sock
bears on the
puppet.
sock. It sounds quite on trend with me, to be honest, since I love everything else that 12-year-olds do. So
Well, listen, Dave, it's been great catching up, and I'm really pleased that you're settled now. Obviously, that you know that we're always here and we
yeah,
see
of
you
course.
anyway. And
Yeah.
I'm annoyed that you didn't call me when you couldn't do your everything because I'd have come over and helped you. But you should have let me know. But listen, thank you for joining us, darling. guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of 50 Shades of Grey. It's really difficult when our kids move out, actually. I think that's going to be something I'm definitely not looking forward to, and hopefully it doesn't happen in the not too near distant future, but further away than that for me. But
Yeah.
I think I'll cope badly with it. I don't want to walk past his bedroom knowing he's not going to be in there
Yeah. I
at
think you'll
some
have Zach
stage.
for a long time, don't worry.
Yeah, he just spends money on himself, which suits me. That's working well for me. But thank thank you for joining Fifth Shades of Grey. Make sure you follow me. Check out Tia. Check out her socks. And if you want any advice on colouring in, Tia's the girl to go to. Apparently, she's great at
Yes.
colouring in. But subscribe and follow. Take care, guys. We'll speak to you soon. Catch up soon. Bye bye.